degrees. The normal low is about 9, so that still is not too bad. Maybe a few flurries and pretty cold tomorrow, though.
All right, we won't complain about that. Thank you for joining us. We'll all be back tonight at 10. Have a good evening.
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. It has been 10 days now since that Amtrak train slammed into the back of the Conrail locomotives on Amtrak's main line outside of Baltimore. It's already been established that the Conrail locomotives should not have been where they were and that human error was involved. Investigators have been trying to go further. And tonight it appears that the Conrail engineer and his brakeman may be in a heap of trouble. Here's ABC's Bettina Gregory.
Blood and urine tests taken after the crash showed that Conrail engineer Ricky Gates had used marijuana sometime prior to the crash. So had brakeman Edward Cromwell. Although the tests for both men showed residues of marijuana constituents in their blood, federal officials say there's no way to know whether the crew were chronic smokers of marijuana or they had just smoked marijuana prior to the accident. Engineer Gates has been the focus of the investigation since it's been proven he was speeding and admitted he ran a stop signal out onto the main track. Meanwhile, driving records indicate Ricky Gates has a 15-year record of speeding and other driving violations that prompted Maryland state officials to suspend his driver's license twice. According to these records, Gates was convicted 8 times for speeding. Just last December, he was arrested on charges of drunken driving, running a stop sign, and a red light. Gates has yet to be tried on those charges, but there are no federal rules to prevent a person with a poor driving record from operating a train. A consumer group says his driving record alone shows Gates was unfit for his job.
My first reaction was, why the hell should someone who has that kind of driving record on the highway be allowed to drive a train?
The issue of whether those with poor driving records should be allowed to drive trains is still murky, but these drug test results are clear. This is the most damaging piece of evidence yet against Conrail engineer Gates. He has increasingly been the focus of the investigation, and there's increasing evidence that he is to blame for this crash. Bettina Gregory, ABC News, Washington.
Another person in trouble in Puerto Rico. A second hotel employee has been charged in the New Year's Eve fire at the DuPont Plaza that killed 96 people. Armando Jimenez Rivera, who worked in the hotel's bar, has now been accused of helping a maintenance man to set the fire. The maintenance man, Hector Escudero Aponte, was charged yesterday with 96 counts of murder. Evidence compiled by the FBI indicates there are additional suspects. And last night we had a report on a young Marine who is being held at Quantico, Virginia on suspicion of espionage. He is 25-year-old Sergeant Clayton Lonetree. He had served as a security specialist at the U.S. Embassy in Moscow. The Secretary of Defense, among others, was concerned that Lonetree had done the United States some serious damage. Officials tell ABC's Dennis Trout tonight those suspicions are justified.
Government sources tell ABC News that Sergeant Lonetree delivered the names of Soviet citizens on the CIA payroll in Moscow to the KGB. It's not known how many, and the agency is not commenting. Also, Lonetree has told military investigators that he gave away information about the embassy building itself, its espionage safeguards, and its vulnerabilities. One official says Lonetree had, quote, access to most areas of the embassy, including high security zones, and passed along information gathered there. Military sources say Lonetree did all this because he was a fool for love, involved with a Soviet woman at the embassy who turned out to be a KGB loyalist herself. But ABC News has been told that Lonetree admitted helping the Soviets even after his reassignment from Moscow to Vienna in March 1986. Apparently in fear of his deepening involvement, the Marine Sergeant finally turned himself in to superiors in December. The State Department has launched a major counterintelligence offensive to try to contain the damage. Sergeant Lonetree reportedly has got a lawyer and has stopped talking to U.S. investigators. Dennis Trout, ABC News, Washington.
We have one note tonight about the consequences of Soviet suspicion. In Montreal today, a small fire erupted in the Soviet consulate. But Soviet officials refused to let the firefighters come in and put it out. The small fire turned into a roaring blaze, and the 3-story building was severely damaged. When we come back, the weather. The European death toll is rising. And later in this broadcast, An ABC News investigation. Was there a rush to judgment in the Atlanta child murder case? And we'll also have a front row seat tonight for the America's Cup in Australia.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings, brought to you by Kellogg's All-Bran cereal.
This man is missing nearly 1/2 of the fiber he should have every day. He's not the only one. The National Cancer Institute states that most Americans have diets lacking adequate fiber. Fortunately, just one serving of Kellogg's All-Bran has the amount of fiber needed to make up what the average person is missing each day. Kellogg's All-Bran. It can make all the difference.
Had enough calcium today? Need more? Introducing another Rolaids, calcium-rich cherry Rolaids, a great antacid plus calcium. New calcium-rich Rolaids. Relief you want, calcium you need.
If you're allergy sensitive, cold symptoms can make your winter attacks feel even worse. For relief, discover Benadryl decongestant. With Benadryl, the most prescribed allergy medication ever, plus a nasal decongestant. Benadryl decongestant.
In Europe tonight, they are talking for the most part about one thing, the weather. It is clearly more than just a bad winter. ABC's Mike Lee is there.
Paris had its heaviest snowfall in 21 years, 8 inches. The temperature in parts of France fell to a minus 44 degrees Fahrenheit. The French army has been mobilized to keep vital supplies moving. Paris subway stations are being kept open for 15,000 poor and homeless. In the Polish port of Gdansk and in Rostock in East Germany, snow and ice caused delay and death. From Soviet Siberia to the Mediterranean, the overall number of people killed is at least 180. Even Spain, which usually brags about its sunshine, didn't even see the sun today. If you were thinking about a gondola ride in the Italian postcard city of Venice, think again. There were also second thoughts on Soviet TV tonight, as a high-ranking official admitted that better planning would have kept more freight trains moving in a country where the weather is endangering vital supplies. Here in Britain today, the police issued an unprecedented warning for parts of the country. Don't even go outside unless it's a matter of life or death. Most people don't have a choice. Many villages are isolated. Highways are blocked. In a week when they're most needed, most trains don't run. One elderly woman died while feeding hungry birds in the snow. These hungry farm animals are being kept inside, their vital water supply defrosted with a tea kettle. In the countryside, emergency milk arrived by helicopter, delivered by Army troops trained for action, which the untrained British people are also facing. Arctic warfare. Mike Lee, ABC News, London.
Other news overseas, Soviet officials, as you know, are being much more public of late in talking about a ceasefire in Afghanistan, even though it may be one-sided. The ceasefire has just started. The Soviets are hoping it will spread to the other side. ABC's Walter Rogers, who is our Moscow bureau chief, has just been allowed to go to Kabul, the Afghan capital.
The Afghan government is playing it safe, still using helicopter gunships to escort civilian airliners landing in Kabul. The helicopters firing flares to deflect heat-seeking missiles supplied to the guerrillas by the United States. Kabul itself seems relatively quiet, although during the winter months, the fighting usually shifts away from the Afghan capital to the southern and western parts of the country. Compared to a year ago, there seem to be fewer armed troops in evidence on the streets, although the Soviets are said to keep 60,000 soldiers around Kabul to guarantee the security of the Afghan government. Today, Afghan officials welcomed a tightly controlled group of Moscow-based correspondents to witness the beginning of the 6-month ceasefire, a ceasefire which has already been rejected by many of the Afghan guerrilla groups. Afghan leader Najibullah is enthusiastically promoting that ceasefire with Moscow's backing. The Soviets are anxious to convey the impression that they want to withdraw most of their forces from Afghanistan within the next 2 or 3 years. That would still give them plenty of time to batter the guerrillas, and it would also buy more time for the current communist regime here to entrench itself. After 7 years of war in Afghanistan, the Soviets' minimal goal now appears to be to leave behind a communist-dominated Afghan government, one which is not only friendly to Moscow, but one which the Soviets can control politically long after they've gone. Walter Rogers, ABC News, Kabul.
When we come back, the chances of a meaningful arms control agreement between the United States and the Soviet Union.
Why is my antacid Tums? Tums is effective. It neutralizes 1/3 more stomach acid than the other leading brand. And Tums is rich in calcium. To me, that's extra good news.
Back when this old tractor and I were kids, Pennzoil came in a can, and 5W30 and 10W30 motor oils didn't even exist. Now, they are recommended not only by GM, Ford, and Chrysler, but by Nissan, Toyota, and Honda for their small engines. Use Pennzoil 5W30 for winter, 10W30 for summer. For small engine protection, my old pal and I recommend it. Pennzoil, the standard of protection since 1889.
Everybody needs a Yugo sometime.
I bought my Yugo because now I can afford a brand new car.
I think it's fun to drive, and it beats my old car pool.
I like the rack and pinion steering and the front wheel drive.
We wanted a dependable second car.
And this Yugo's just what we need.
The 87 Yugo GB is still only $39.90. Call 1-800-USA-YUGO for the dealer nearest you.
Everybody needs a Yugo sometime.
Arthritis. Today there's something else to take. Anacin caplets, the first coated caplet containing aspirin, the medicine doctors recommend most for minor arthritis pain. For hours of relief, Anacin, doctor recommended, now in coated caplets too.
It is the 7th round of arms control negotiations which the Soviet Union and the United States begin in Geneva tomorrow, and both sides are saying they are serious. ABC News has been talking to a number of people who are well informed on the subject. How's it going to go in Geneva? ABC's Rick Inderfirth is there.
The opening session of the 7th round of the Geneva talks will take place here at the Soviet mission. But many of the experts interviewed by ABC News were quite pessimistic about the chances of an agreement during this round or during the remaining 2 years of Ronald Reagan's term in office. Former Secretary of Defense, James Schlesinger.
This is the time that we could have seized. I think, regrettably, that it's been fumbled away.
General Brent Scowcroft, former National Security Advisor.
Frankly, time is running out for this administration.
Topping the list of obstacles to an agreement, the continuing superpower dispute over President Reagan's Strategic Defense Initiative. Former arms negotiator Paul Warnke.
Star Wars is very apt to block any progress whatsoever.
Albert Gore, Senate Democrat.
Number one, the Soviet Union has chosen to relink the ability to make progress in other arms control areas with the question of Star Wars or space and defense weapons. Secondly, on our side, we have shown an unwillingness to negotiate any meaningful constraints on the pace and scope of the SDI program.
Another obstacle, the Iceland summit where Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev talked about eliminating all nuclear weapons, much to the dismay of America's European allies who rely on those weapons to offset the Soviet advantage in conventional arms. The two leaders came away with no agreements.
Comprehensiveness and the breathtaking character of the proposals has thrown the whole arms control agenda into confusion. And I think it's very difficult. It may turn out to be impossible to go back and pick up the pieces.
And a third obstacle, the continuing civil war within the Reagan administration over arms control policy, which the president has failed to put an end to. Moderates seeking an agreement are led by Secretary of State George Shultz, hardliners by Defense Secretary Caspar Weinberger.
The civilians in the Defense Department are still very, very leery about any sort of arms control. They don't want any restrictions on their ability to go ahead with strategic offensive and defensive systems.
Still, none of those interviewed entirely ruled out the possibility of reaching a new arms accord, in part because of Soviet leader Gorbachev's apparent willingness to deal.
The Soviets are in a mood to negotiate. Mr. Gorbachev is under great pressure because of his desire to improve the performance of his economy. He's also under pressure because of the Strategic Defense Initiative.
And the former director of the CIA, William Colby, believes the current Iran arms deal Contra scandal may provide a negotiating incentive to President Reagan as well.
The best way for the president to get out of his current situation is to launch a new effort of negotiating with the Soviets. If he came home with a Soviet-American agreement on arms, this whole Iranian thing would be lost in the dust. It would be all in the past.
President Reagan recently said the superpowers are closer than ever before to a major agreement to reduce nuclear arms. But right now, many experts believe Ronald Reagan will leave the White House remembered for his Strategic Defense Initiative and his arms buildup, not for arms control. Rick and DeFirth, ABC News, Geneva.
The talks begin tomorrow. In our next segment, all those murders of children in Atlanta 5 years ago. Should so many cases have been closed?
Put on the Plus.
Now, help prevent dry, chapped lips with new Chapstick Petroleum Jelly Plus. Plus aloe, plus lanolin, plus a special angled tip. New Chapstick Petroleum Jelly Plus.
Put on the Plus.
Robitussin Night Relief not only puts your cold to sleep, it lets you wake up feeling better and ready to go. Night Relief, the nighttime cold medicine from Robitussin.
Mom, send $500 soon, or there won't be a honeymoon.
I'm calling about your son, Jerome. Better send money. He wants to go home.
To send someone money fast, come to Western Union. We'll make sure it gets to any of our 10,000 locations, usually in 15 minutes or less. Sayonara! Western Union, the fastest way to send money.
Here's Jerry with a new car.
What'd you pay for it?
About $5,500.
Are you kidding?
Does it run on batteries?
What's it made of? Gray paper?
Does it have a motor? Does it have a motor? Can I kick the tires?
Will the door come off the hinges?
Hey, guess what? It's a Subaru!
Oh, a Subaru!
Subaru!
Only one inexpensive car is built like a Subaru. Introducing the Subaru Justy. Inexpensive and built to stay that way.
Such a smart boy. Oh.
If you're interested in earning more than a paycheck, the Century 21 system announces a week of opportunity. Mark your calendar now for career sessions. Find out why we're #1, the best-known professionals in the business. Find out about our Career Track training, one of the most comprehensive programs in real estate. Call the Century 21 office nearest you and make a date with your future.
#1 to work for you, Century 21.
Don't miss the Century 21 Career Opportunity Week, now through January 18th.
There was some good news today about a large part of the economy. Retail sales were up 4.4% in December. That is the second biggest monthly increase ever. Here's ABC's Stephen Ogg.
It began as a disappointingly slow holiday season for American retailers. But when it ended, December 1986 had a near-record performance. The main reason was a 16.2% surge in automobile sales, as consumers rushed to take advantage of the last time they could deduct the full sales tax on their income taxes.
Reason 3, money. Now is your last chance to deduct your sales tax before January 1st.
But what goes up must come down. And during the first 2 weeks of this year, automobile sales plunged, with the big three domestic makers down 38.7%. Now the automobile dealers are wondering what it takes to get sales back up.
GM is going to have to come up with something to get the public or get the customers into the door and for them to buy.
And if you've bought a Japanese car lately, you know that prices have been going up. Like the Toyota Deluxe Camry, almost $11,000, up $1,000 in just a year. Most of that is because the dollar has been plunging and it takes more dollars to buy Japanese goods. And White House spokesman Larry Speaks confirmed today the talk in Washington that the government may want to push the dollar down even further to make American goods cheaper overseas and improve our trade situation. So while a falling dollar is going to make American goods cheaper in the rest of the world, it makes imports more expensive. And that means higher prices here at home. Stephen Ogg, ABC News, Washington.
In tonight's other Money Matters, the Wall Street rally has made it 9 days in a row. The Dow Jones Industrials gained another 22 points today, and the trading was very heavy. One of the nation's largest civil rights organizations has issued its annual assessment of Black America. The Urban League calls its report the state of Black America, and it is not encouraging. It says that black family income has gone down, that poverty rates have increased, that black purchasing power has declined. The Urban League's president, John Jacob, places the blame firmly on the Reagan administration. And the result, he says, is a national climate of selfishness and the failure of government to take a positive role in ending racism and disadvantage. We have a report tonight on old wounds being reopened in Atlanta. It was the site 4 years ago of one of this nation's most gruesome killing sprees. Wayne Williams received life sentences for 2 of the notorious Atlanta child murders. Evidence uncovered by ABC News raises serious questions about how the Williams case was handled. ABC's Marshall Frady has been investigating.
It went on for almost 2 years, a mysterious, methodical killing of Atlanta's black youths, and a rising desperation to find who was doing this, to end the terror. And it did seem to end in 1982 with the conviction of Wayne Williams for 2 of the murders. But yesterday in Atlanta, mothers of some victims confronting police officials were still crying for an answer to who killed their sons.
You did not accommodate us to lock up the suspects in the murder of the missing and murdered children.
The only physical evidence directly connecting Williams to victims were synthetic fibers taken from Williams' home and car, which prosecutors claimed matched fibers found on victims' bodies.
But the fiber evidence actually did become the deciding factor in what we found him as guilty as opposed to not guilty. That was the only concrete evidence that we had.
And on that same fiber evidence, 22 other unsolved murders were simply pronounced solved. But now ABC News, in an open record suit, has obtained the full police investigative files in 2 of those other cases. They raise serious questions about that decisive fiber evidence.
Obviously it raises some doubts. First of all, why the cases were closed, and to the quality of the fiber evidence.
First, the file on the murder of Charles Stevens, whose body was found on a hillside by this trailer court. Not once was Williams connected to the death until his trial. Prosecutors said fibers linked Stevens to a car owned by the Williams family, which, however, they had purchased in another city days after Stevens' death. Second, the file on the murder of Clifford Jones, which reveals the investigation focused almost exclusively on another suspect who lived in a room behind this laundromat. Witnesses placed Jones here close to the time the coroner said he was slain. 3 witnesses told police that later that night in an alley behind the laundromat, they saw a figure they believed to be the suspect carry a heavy burden wrapped in plastic and deposit it by this dumpster, then make a call from a phone booth. Police responding to an anonymous call found here the body of Clifford Jones. Another witness, Freddie Cosby, told police in detail how he had actually seen the suspect strangle Jones. All this evidence does combine to make it seem highly improbable it was Williams who killed Jones. And Williams' name never appears in this file until the very last page, where solely because of fibers, he is abruptly declared the perpetrator. But if in these 2 cases the fiber connections to Williams are wrong, what does that mean about the validity of the fiber connections in all the other cases?
Makes you wonder. Makes you wonder a lot of things.
The fiber evidence obviously is incorrect as it applies to Williams in those 2 cases. Then it is just as likely that it could be incorrect as applied to all of the other cases.
Yesterday, after meeting with victims' mothers behind closed doors, Atlanta law officials said they would discuss trying Williams in the 22 untried cases.
I think there was such a sigh of relief in the community at the verdict that found him guilty that there was somewhat of a rush to wipe the slate clean, to close the unsolved cases.
Now, what's contained in those files just released may have pushed Atlanta closer to confronting a painful prospect. That rushing to wipe that slate clean may have been at the cost of the whole ordeal being opened up again. Marshall Frady, ABC News, Atlanta.
When we come back, our final report, watching the America's Cup from the driver's seat.
Introducing Metaprin when your body hasn't got time for the pain, even menstrual pain. Metaprin has ibuprofen, the prescription ingredient recommended by doctors 2-to-1 over aspirin for body pain, even menstrual pain, and it's safer to your stomach than aspirin. When your body hasn't got time for the pain, new Metaprin from the makers of Tylenol products.
The top quality cars and trucks on the road today.
You know, for my money, all the quality claims from here to Tokyo and back again can't stand up to 6 simple words. 5 years or 50,000 miles. That's the warranty you get when you buy any car or truck built by Chrysler. With some other car makers, after 2 or 3 years, it's so long, auf Wiedersehen or sayonara. Which makes you wonder, how much confidence do those guys really have in the quality they're talking about? At Chrysler, we've backed over 5 million engines, over 5 million powertrains, over 5 million car and truck bodies with 550 protection. If they fail or fall apart, we fall on our faces. But something is holding us up, quality. So the next time you hear somebody talking quality, take a look at his warranty, then take a look at ours. To me, it's simple. If you're looking for who builds them best, take a look at who backs them best.
Tonight on Nightline, America's Cup. Experience one of the greatest sports challenges. Ted Koppel takes to the sea with a master yachtsman to take you through the turns.
For the second night in a row, we end with the America's Cup because it's looking a little more like America will at least get a shot at trying to win it back. Today, for the second time in the semifinals, Dennis Conner, selling Stars and Stripes for the San Diego Yacht Club, beat New Zealand. At the same time, 2 Australian yachts fought it out for the right to defend the Cup. As ABC's Bill Blakemore reports, you do not have to be on the crew to feel like you're part of the race.
One of the real stars here at the America's Cup races today was the new TV technology, putting us, viewers around the world, right into the action on a racing 12-meter boat. When the balloon spinnaker whipped out of control on Kookaburra, one of the 2 Australian boats fighting each other to become the Cup defender, viewers everywhere pitched forward to watch the crewman up the mast to cut it free. Remote control cameras on board Kookaburra zoomed in to let us taste the saltwater tension on the face of skipper Ian Murray just as he outmaneuvered Australia 4 to take the lead. On board America's Stars and Stripes, we could feel the teamwork and hear the tactician.
Okay, now you're a little faster and a little lower. Looks like you've got good speed in a straight line with them. A little better bearing.
Stars and Stripes skipper Dennis Conner soundly beat New Zealand for the second day in a row, giving America a 2-0 lead in the best-of-7 Challenger finals. New Zealand still has crowds of supporters cheering them into Fremantle Harbor at the end of the day, but New Zealand called for a day off tomorrow to try to get their act together.
If it comes to last race and we're still behind, you might see a different style. We'll be over the side paddling.
At the post-race press conference, the young Kiwi skipper tried to appear philosophical.
You know, we could come up with 1,000,001 excuses. The if only blues, I think, is the term. If only, whatever, we might have won today.
We've been had 2 zips before, and so we're not counting our chickens before they're hatched.
But the atmosphere in Conner's camp this evening was relaxed and confident. The skipper who lost the Cup to Australia in '83 means to get it back. His crew is expressing their sentiments here in this music video warning.
You got something of ours you're going to have to give up. Of course, we're talking about America's Cup. Don't want to be rude, don't want to be mean, but you wish you were driving a submarine. What goes down must come up. The Stars and Stripes want to see America's Cup. There ain't no doubt about it. We won't leave Earth without it.
Bill Blakemore, ABC News, Fremantle, Australia.
Imagine how they like that on Australian television. That's our report on World News tonight. I'm Peter Jennings. Have a nice evening and good night.
A woman in love can live a fantasy.
Do you still find me exciting?
A woman in love can make a dream come true. But this is no dream on Dynasty. Tonight.
Witness the drama in the movie everybody wants to see. Little Shop of Horrors, rated PG-13. Now playing.
On January 13th, Iowa's governor delivered his condition of the state address to the legislature. In it, he outlined his goals for the coming session, including a 4-cent gasoline tax increase. Goals that will affect your life and way of living. Only one Central Iowa news operation covered this event live. Only one Central Iowa news operation brought you live comments from both sides of the legislative aisle after the address. 5 TV News. We're bringing you